Welcome to Uncut. I'm Steve Adubato. This is a series of conversations with people who are making a difference in our lives every day in government, in the not-for-profit sector, in business, and the university community. We're honored to be joined by the Lieutenant Governor of the great state of New Jersey, Sheila Oliver. Sheila, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Lieutenant Governor, let me ask you this. We did a previous conversation for public broadcasting on where we are post-COVID, or not, I shouldn't say post-COVID, in the midst of COVID, but help us on this. We're taping this in mid-June. The disproportionate impact of COVID-19 on people, on Black and brown people, what is that about?
I think it's a number of things. And of course, we've been examining this with our Department of Health and experts that have been working with us. For one thing, many people in the Black community already had pre-existing conditions: diabetes, heart disease, number of different underlying conditions. Access to health care, even though we've kind of gotten the ACA in place where people can, go in a health exchange and get low-cost health insurance, many people don't even have that. So what you find in the African-American community, for people who are not insured, they don't visit doctors regularly, so they don't know what condition they are in. We've learned that this virus can, if you have a compromised system, if you have any of these underlying conditions, COVID's gonna come right in as a welcome visitor. And I think that is the top reason. The second, and one of our dear friends shared this with me, Janine LaRue. She called me up one day.
She's the best, absolutely the best.
And she said—
by the way, check out Jean LaRue. Her Facebook regular posts are absolutely terrific. Just check that out. I'm sorry that I shouldn't have plugged, but she's our friend. Go ahead.
But Janine said to me one day, Sheila, do you realize that people who live in the Trenton Housing Authority properties, it's no more than 600 square feet. And there may be a mother, there may be 3 children, there may be two grandchildren. But Janine and I engaged in a conversation that in low and moderate income families, they generally are living in cramped quarters. And that is why we were all concerned if there were adult children in a household who were going in and out, going to work, continuing to work, and coming home to that elderly grandmother. But I think that our living situations contribute to the spread of the COVID as well.
Lieutenant Governor, let me ask you this. In our previous conversation, we talked a little bit about institutional racism, confronting it. But this is a different twist on it. Why do you think it is so difficult for so many? Listen, Sheila Oliver is from Essex County. I'm from Essex County. We're from neighboring towns. We've known each other for a long time. But let's just say this. I'm not going to stereotype, but I'll do the best I can in describing this. There are some folks in certain parts of Essex County, disproportionately white, middle class, upper middle class, who are my friends, who are your friends, who, let's just say, are not as sensitive and not as willing to look at their own contribution to racism or their own racist feelings. All of us struggle with that. But here's the question. For some of them, I find it, and I imagine you would find it, particularly difficult to talk honestly about race relations, racism. Because there are many who say, trust me, there's a question here, we already, quote, dealt with that. But then you see George Floyd, you see so many cases after that. The question is this: is it as hard to talk honestly about racism as it appears to me to be?
Absolutely, Steve. It is a difficult conversation. And, being an African American, I think we need to have honest conversations amongst ourselves because we are racist too.
What do you mean by that?
That African Americans also hold stereotypical view of Caucasians, of Asians, of people that come from African nations, people that come from Caribbean nations. I think racism is broader than just Black versus white in the United States. And I attribute it all to lack of experience. So yes, I like you, Essex County. I have friends in the western part of the county, but they know me. I know them. I've had history with them. I've worked with them, and I think what the issue gets to be, we continue to have such segregated communities in our state, but it has to do with the unequal distribution of wealth. That's really what it has to do with.
You know, when the lieutenant governor talks about segregated communities, it's interesting. Essex County is an incredibly diverse county, but people are segregated. I happen to live in Montclair, born and raised in Newark, New Jersey. Montclair is a relatively integrated community,
Yes.
but there are pockets of segregation.
Yes.
Essex County is a diverse county, but African Americans disproportionately live in Newark, East Orange, Irvington, et cetera. We don't know each other's experiences.
That's correct.
Is that part of the reason why it's so hard?
It is. And then, Steve, when you think about young people, when they're socialized and, they're going through development, they're in segregated schools. And, when I was running the Leaguers in Newark,
a great not-for-profit organization committed to education and promoting leadership among young people.
Yes, but one of the things I made it a point of was giving experiences, travel experiences within the state and outside of the state to introduce kids that were living in Newark and East Orange and Irvington the opportunity to see a different kind of life, a different kind of community. There are many urban kids growing up in urban school systems. They've never been to Monmouth County or Ocean County or Salem County, Cumberland. And I think that this creates the divide. As a legislator, I found that to be true because our state legislature is built up around regionalism. And when I was the speaker, I made a commitment to travel.
Speaker of the Assembly.
Yes, I made it my business to travel to all 40 districts, legislative districts, and I got a real education. It made me a better legislator because I understood that Salem County is probably the poorest to be found. Everybody thinks it's Newark. Everyone thinks it's Trenton or, it's Camden at the time. But poverty exists in other parts of the state. I always say the Raritan River is the Great Divide in New Jersey. If you live above it, you know one New Jersey. If you live below it, you know another.
Final
and
question.
I think that contributes to this whole issue of racism.
Sorry for interrupting. Final question. Lieutenant Governor Oliver was one of the many honorees. Each year, we run a not-for-profit entity called Stand and Deliver for young men and women in urban areas, disproportionately in Newark, teaching communication, leadership skills. It's run by our great leader, Mary Gamba, on our team. And every year, the Dr. Martin Luther King Award isn't given, it is earned by someone. And Lieutenant Governor was a Dr. King honoree in front of about 400 young people who were at this event. And it causes me to ask this question, since that program is all about leadership. Your philosophy of leading, your paradigm, if you will, of leading, your approach to leading is modeled and shaped by what?
The many mentors that I had during my teen years, and I'll start with my family, because my family was now they have hashtag stay woke. My parents were woke. And so at an early age, we had an extended family that was made up of all kinds of people. My mother's best friend was a Jewish woman from Sheepshead Bay, New York. So I think that the things that I ideologically adopted at an early age contributed to leadership. I also think that I'm a baby boomer, and I think I developed early a strong work ethic. We often think that young people today don't have a strong work ethic, but I think a strong work ethic contributes to your ability to be a good leader. And ironically, Mary Birch, who was the founder of the Leaguers.
Of the Leaguers, right.
She gave me a lesson in 80 that I have never forgotten. She said to me, Sheila, if you are going to embark on a life of public service, then you must develop an alligator hide. I have never forgotten that. And I developed an alligator hide. The other thing that's important to be a good leader is something I had on a t-shirt from a conference I went to. And it said, leadership is the only ship that doesn't return to port when there's a storm. So
translate that for us, Lieutenant Governor. The leadership is the only ship that does not
return to port when there's a storm.
And that says what to you?
It says to me that no matter what is going on a given day, no matter what obstacles and challenges might be represented, you just persevere and you work through it. It creates a better leader in you. And the other thing I think that I learned as a leadership characteristic, and I learned this from another person you and I know, Alex Plinio, who was at Prudential.
Prudential for many years.
Mm-hmm. Alex taught me the concept that win-lose is not a good paradigm. Win-win is a good paradigm. So as in the leadership roles I have had to fulfill, I have often stressed working towards win-win, that everyone walks away from the table with something. Might not be with 100% of what they want, but everyone gains something. And I think these are the things that contribute to someone being a good leader.
On a final note, the other thing you did not mention, Sheila Oliver, is that every day I've known you for 20, 30 years, you've shown people nothing but respect, no matter who they are, where they are, and what their title is or is not. So just respecting other people and their humanity is part of leadership as well. You honor us by your presence, by your leadership, and by your dedication to the state of New Jersey, its citizens, particularly those who are most vulnerable. Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate always seeing you.
Okay.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by the Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey, the New Jersey Education Association, PSC&G, New Jersey Institute of Technology, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, Suez North America, Gibbons PC, University Hospital, and by the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. Promotional support provided by Insider NJ and by ROI-NJ.
Every day, nearly 2 million customers across New Jersey rely on PSC&G to provide natural gas. And every day, PSC&G is committed to doing it safely. That includes making sure you know what to do if you smell gas. A natural gas leak smells like rotten eggs. If you suspect a gas leak, leave your home immediately. Get far away, then call 911. Remember, smell, leave, call. Protect the ones you love. Learn more at pscg.com/gas safety.